Alan Quinlan, what's the sporting event you're most looking forward to when fans are allowed back?
Oh, that's a good question. The All-Ireland final, and hopefully Tipperary will be in it, and I'll be there watching it.
It's a good shout.
Hurling final.
Yeah.
The hurling final now. Hurling final.
You take the football as well, I'm sure, but the hurling final will obviously be the sweet one. Let's get straight into La Rochelle against Leinster this Sunday. Alan, the big talking point obviously is no Johnny Sexton. We had Louise Galvin on the show a couple of days ago, and she was making the point that an Ireland without Sexton is a bigger problem than a Leinster without Sexton. Do you go along with that?
I'm not sure. I think Johnny Sexton's a big loss. I think his influence, temperament, his drive, desire, all that stuff, and his experience in these big games. Ross Byrne did fantastic against Exeter when he came on, and but it was a dominant team performance as well. And he's underrated and probably gets criticised at times, and has been criticised over the years when he's played with Ireland. But it's all about the team. If no fly half can play well unless his forwards play well in front of him, and unless they come up with some individual brilliance that changes a match when they're under pressure. But I think Sexton's a big loss, and it could be crucial. But again, Leinster are a very cohesive team, and if they perform as a unit, I think Ross Byrne will be fine.
Is there a slight concern there, though, that the pack don't have dominance on Sunday, and that Ross Byrne doesn't have it as maybe as easy as he would in the Pro 14? Yeah,
he doesn't have to win the game on his own. I think when they don't have dominance, and if they don't have it in periods of the game on Saturday, it's just about composure, and Leinster are very, very composed. Obviously, the form of Henshaw this year he's been absolutely fantastic, and giving him the ball, he gets you that go forward. His experience as well, and just his level of performance has been so consistent and good this year. But they have other match winners. Quinlan has been very good at full back. Larmour can do something brilliant. Gary Ringrose as well. There's a lot of motivation for a lot of these players, obviously, to get into a final. But Warren Gatland picking a line squad next Thursday as well. So I don't think it's going to be an issue for him. But if it's a tight game, I think Sexton could be crucial, but we'll have to wait and see, I think. But as I said, look, they've shown so many times in big games that the team performance is very consistent, very good at a high level. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They put huge pressure on the opposition, but they're going to come up against a very physical side as well on Sunday. So I think it's crucial where Ross Byrne plays the game for Leinster. But someone like Luke McGrath he's been brilliant this year as well, and really, really performed very well for Leinster, and he does a lot of the kicking out of their own half with box kicks and clearances. So I think it's probably up to him, up to the Leinster pack and Luke McGrath to take off that pressure and not just fire the ball back to Ross Byrne and expect him to do brilliant things with it. He's well capable, as I said, but it's just how they manage that and how manage their kick retreats out of their own half.
You're not a bit convinced by Ross Byrne reading between the lines?
No, I am, but I think, look, at the end of the day, and it's no disrespect to Ross Byrne, but Johnny Sexton is a serial winner, and he's a really, really strong temperament, and he'd be a loss to any team. Of course, what Louise is saying is they've coped well without him, and Ross Byrne is very, very comfortable when he plays for Leinster. I think there's a different sort of pressure when you play for Ireland. He looks very composed and relaxed and confident in a Leinster jersey. So I can understand what Louise means by that. But at the end of the day, Adrian, he's a serial winner. He's a very determined person. And it would be a bit of a concern. But look, the quality, and most teams have to deal with these kind of things.
Is it his temperament, Quinny? Is that what you're saying? That look, there are few players like Sexton on the planet, but that Sexton has that ability, even when the pack are going back a bit, to help turn a game a bit. Are you saying there's a question mark a bit about that about Ross Byrne?
I'm not saying there's a question mark. I'm saying it's down to experience, Adrian. You know what I mean? Johnny Sexton, it just has such determination, and he seems to be able to drive people on. Ross Byrne is not the same type of character. He's not your dominant, outspoken, in-your-face type out half. I think things have to go well for Ross Byrne, for the people around him have to play well, for him to do well. They did that in Exeter. And look, maybe he will be the one that will pull him out of a hole on Sunday if they need him. He's capable of doing that. I don't think it's a huge issue, but I still think having someone like Johnny Sexton not playing is a loss to Leinster. His overall presence, his drive, his desire, his leadership. And I just would be concerned that if they are in a difficult spot on Sunday, that, you know, maybe we'll see Ross Byrne become of age and really kind of shut up the doubters. He did that in Exeter, but a lot of the play in Exeter was front football. I think the pack in front of him were outstanding. Right across the board, the whole team played well, and he was superb as well. So he'll be very confident from that. I'm not saying it's a big issue. It'll be an issue if they lose, but I just think someone like Sexton's presence having him around is really important. But look, Leinster are still good enough to go and win this game. They're a top quality side who've shown time and time again that they have that control, that composure, and know how to win these big games.
Part of that know-how in the pack is obviously with the wizened heads of the likes of Devin Toner, Scott Fardy. And when it comes to Toner, it looked after the Pro 14 final as if he was going to leave. He had his hand on the trophy at the end of that. Things have changed in the meantime. He's going to stay on again for another year. How impressive has he been this season? And he's clearly so deserving of that new contract.
Yeah, he's been very impressive. I think it's always a concern when you're kind of winding down, you're coming towards the end of your career, and there's uncertainty around whether you get another contract or not, or whether you want it. And I think he's been very, very impressive. He's the type of fellow who just goes about his business, and he's pretty relaxed, Devin, and he's performed so well over the years for Leinster, has been crucial to them. So it didn't surprise me, his reaction and the way he's played, and he's been consistent and really important for him. Who'll start on Sunday? Will it be James Ryan and Scott Fardy? Will it be Toner and James Ryan? Who knows? But Devin Toner has been very, very impressive, to be fair. And you know, I experienced this myself on when you're kind of getting to that stage where you're kind of coming towards the end and you want to play on, and there's an extra spark and fight in you to try and get that extra contract. And he's shown a desire for that, Devin Toner, in his performances, and I think, you know, he deserves credit for that.
We maybe have learned, I know it's not a like-for-like situation, but maybe Irish Rugby has learned a little bit from the Donncha Ryan situation?
Yeah, look, it's down to individual choices as well. You know, Donncha could have stayed on. There was a contract on the table. He wanted something new. That's been well documented. You know, Devin Toner, I don't think is going to be picked for Ireland again, is he? But you never know. But I think he's important to Leinster, and he's important to what they're trying to do in that transition for Ryan Baird, and to try and get more depth and more second rows coming through as well in Leinster. Very experienced player as well. So that experience adds a lot of value, but he's got to play and perform well, and he's done that recently. So maybe some similarities, but I think it's you know, it's down to individual choices as well.
So what way would you be leaning with those selections on Sunday that you mentioned there?
I'd be playing Toner, I think, and probably James Ryan. Although Fardy, it's a tough one. Fardy offers so much around the field. He can upset the opposition. He can stop their flow. He can bust up mauls. He's really good at the breakdown. But what you get with Toner in the line-out is you get a real surety around winning that first phase ball and putting pressure on the opposition as well. So it's seeing where, you know, it depends what their needs are and what they see themselves in training. But for me, it's probably Toner and Ryan with Fardy to come on, to have that experience, to come on if they're in a decent enough position, to really get at La Rochelle. And like I say, you know, his overall game, Fardy, is fantastic. He's been brilliant for them in the last number of years.
Maybe some of those selections, Quinny, might come down to Andy Dunn was talking in the week about the La Rochelle explosiveness in broken play, and I wondered when you sort of put that in the mix along with maybe some question marks about some of the wide Leinster backs, how all that plays out and how you counter, if it's possible to counter something like explosiveness in broken play.
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, they're going to have defensively they've been rock solid, Leinster, in these games, and my only concern is, they beat Munster on the 27th of March, and they were very impressive in that final, very, very impressive against Exeter in the quarterfinal. But when they line out on Sunday, that'll be 5 full weeks. That's 2 matches in 5 weeks. Now you can look at that as a positive, that they're going to be very, very fresh, but 2 games in 5 weeks, Leinster don't surprise us with their performance and the way they can just switch it on and turn it on. But that would be another little concern for me, that they haven't, the team that's going to be selected for Sunday, and that'll be announced later on. They've only played twice in 5 weeks. And the physicality and the explosiveness that you're talking about there with the likes of Skelton or Bottia or Victor Vito, all these Leinster players will have encountered that before. But it's about how you deal with that in the one-on-one situations and make sure you win the collisions and the impact tackles and stuff like that.
Do you stand off a bit at the breakdown, Quinny, or like if you know that they're going to be that explosive and that pacey on the break, like is there a sense that you actually just let them have it at the breakdown and get your defence set cleanly, or is that what do you think about how that? No,
you don't. Leinster play their own game and they will attack and try and impose themselves, and I think probably the key would be the breakdown, because if they can slow La Rochelle down a little bit and negate their threat of getting quick ball and getting their explosive players onto it and making carries, I think that's an integral part of the game. Obviously the set piece is crucial as well, getting a good scrum and line out. But and sometimes you just got to man up then, Adrian, and make sure that you're getting off the line. You're very conscious. Someone like Bottia at 12, he's so good going forward, and also without the ball, his threat at the breakdown. So look, games at this level, you're going to come up against very good teams, and you've got to get most parts of your game right and look back and analyse it, and they're the kind of crucial areas. And you've got to be really physical. Will Skelton is someone who is playing for La Rochelle. He played in that final in 2019, and it's not a surprise that to stop Leinster, you've got to physically be at the pace with them for 80 minutes, and you've got to win the collisions against them and stop them getting over the gain line, because they're a side that can just hold on to the ball so well and so impressively and create opportunities. And they will be hoping that they can do that, get into multi-phase, and hope that someone will switch off in the La Rochelle defence, which is a very impressive defence now, let me tell you as well. They get off the line so aggressively, and they're a physical side as well. So it's a hard game to call. It's a tough game, and Leinster themselves, they can't really, you could never stand off a side. I think no one would ever go out and prepare. I think I played in games against French sides, particularly Toulouse, where at times the focus would have been let them have the ball, but take them to ground, stop their offloading game, tag the ball, hunt on the inside, because when they get their flow going and the offloads going, they just it's so hard to slow them down, and it's so hard to set your defence. All French teams are like that if they get the flow going. So it starts with the integral parts, the kind of fundamentals of breakdown, scrum, line out, that first phase possession that they're allowing them, and to make sure they win the collisions. You've got to man up, Henshaw, Bottia is an enthralling kind of a matchup in midfield, but also the back row as well. They've got Liebenberg is a very aggressive player. Victor Vito can be a match winner. He's someone who can be superb when he gets on the front foot, and then you've got Raymond Rule and Dylan Lades out wide. They're lethal. and Brees Doolan at fullback. So a lot of good players I'm naming on both sides. You know, and it's really down to, you know, who performs well and consistently. And Leinster, the side that don't really make a lot of mistakes. They play in the right areas. They seem to do the right thing a lot. And that's the challenge for Ronan O'Gara, John O'Gibbs, and his La Rochelle side. How composed can they be when they're under pressure?
Tonight then, there's a great start to the rugby weekend. Leicester against Ulster at Welford Road from 8 o'clock. There's a couple of really interesting matchups in this one, Quinny. There's Balakoon against Nadolo on the wing, potentially. For people who are talking about this guy as a potential test player for Ireland, this is a really exciting matchup.
Yeah, it is. He'll not want to give Nadolo space or time on the ball, because when the engine revs up and he starts moving, he's incredibly hard to stop. Balakoon is a very, very talented player, and he's got that X factor, and he's got natural speed. You give him some ball and space, and he can skin players. So he's just got to make sure that, you know, he gets the physical side of his game right tonight against Nadolo, and doesn't give him space, gets up right into his face and stops him getting his momentum forward. But on the flip side of that, if Balakoon can get some space, well, you know, he has the ability to go around people, and he's scintillating at times. But it's the type of ball that Ulster give him and deliver to him.
Is it 2 Irish wins this weekend?
I'd be confident that it'll be 2 Irish wins. I think they're both tight games, and they're down to what I call the basics of rugby: is desire, aggression, physicality. All that stuff needs to be there, and you need to bring that intensity to a different level to win these big games. They can be nervy affairs. Semi-finals sometimes are not the best spectacles as regards the ball being thrown around everywhere. But for Ulster tonight, they've got to really be physical, not make the mistakes. They got away with it a bit at times in Northampton. Their attack was very good, but they were sloppy sometimes in defence. And last week would be a hammer blow to them. You know, they were in a very good position, but you can't, like, Connacht had the ball probably for 20 minutes of that second half last week, and Ulster just couldn't get the ball back and impose themselves physically. They've got to do that tonight. You know, Leicester are not the Leicester of old. They've lost 9 times this year in the Premiership. They've been struggling the last couple of years, but they'll see this as a real opportunity to turn the tide for them and get back to winning ways and get into a final. But there has to be a desperation for Ulster as well. It's a long time since they've won a trophy. They've shown us glimpses of real promise at times under Dan McFarlane, but a little bit of inconsistency. So I think they're good enough to go there and win tonight. I fancy Ulster to go and win. And I think Leinster, just that bit of experience, might get them across the line on Sunday. But if they allow La Rochelle play, and if La Rochelle get on the front foot, I think they're a very, very dangerous side, like with Doolan and Raymond Rule and Lades and these guys. So really 2 intriguing games, 2 to look forward to, but I'd be confident it'll be 2 Irish wins.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be having that conversation with you next week, Quinny. Thanks a million.
Cheers, lads.